Right, people. Woo! Yeah! All right, today's YouTube video is going to be a very special video. We got NBA basketball games coming up. That's right. Christmas Day basketball games. It don't get no better than that. And as you do know, there's about 5 or 6 basketball games scheduled for Christmas Day. And my video on the San Diego / LA Chargers versus the Baltimore Ravens was a well-received video. Some of you like the video, some of you hate the video. It is what it is. Now, as for the person in the comment section talking about the LA Chargers were in Los Angeles in the 1960s, okay, that's good. You did your homework. Wow, that's great. You did your homework. But when I'm making a video about them going back and forth between Los Angeles and San Diego, if you know your research so very well, then you should know that in the late 80s, early 90s, they would go back and forth between Los Angeles and San Diego. Yes, they were in Los Angeles first in the 1960s and the 1970s and most of the 1980s, but towards the late 80s, early 90s, they would leave Los Angeles and go to San Diego, leave San Diego, come back to Los Angeles, leave Los Angeles, go back to San Diego, leave San Diego, and come back to Los Angeles now in 2018. So if you know your history of San Diego, LA Chargers, then you should know they always go back and forth. So you're not proving nothing in the comment section, bro. So you can just sit down and stop it. So for the rest of my subscribers, let's have some fun and kick some ass and let's take some names. Now, the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Houston Rockets. Why am I doing this matchup first as a prediction for Christmas Day? This is going to be a very competitive basketball game. This is going to be Russell Westbrook at his absolute best in his prime and all of his glory versus Chris Paul and James Harden of the Houston Rockets. Now, these are two teams that have played each other 10 times in the past 10 years. And the last 7 out of 10 years, they have traded victories over one another. You know, Oklahoma City Thunder have played this team 4 times in an NBA season. You know, Oklahoma City Thunder winning 2 wins, and Houston Rockets taking 2 wins. And these are some high-scoring basketball games. I predict that Russell Westbrook is probably going to end up with probably either a double-double or a triple-double when the game's all said and done. You know, this is a player that takes on all the responsibility. He puts all the responsibility on his shoulders. You know, ever since his partner in crime, Kevin Durant, defected to the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, you heard me. And abandoned him. Russell Westbrook's been on a tear. This guy's come back from injury, and I suspect that he should be anywhere between 75 to 80%, maybe 85%, 90% if he's lucky. He might score anywhere between 20 to possibly 30 points. If he has a great night, he might score 30, 40 points. Him scoring 45, that's out of the question. But I think Russell Westbrook might drop 20 to 30 points. He might end up with 3 to probably 7 assists. He might get some rebounds, a couple of blocks, a couple of steals. And I suspect that because it's a Christmas game and it's highly anticipated and they're going into Houston, I think the intentions would be for the Oklahoma City Thunder to try to do one thing. Try to actually win the basketball game in Houston. And they've done it before. This also is a preview of an NBA matchup. I also do believe if the NBA playoffs was to start right now today, there's a strong opportunity that you actually might see this matchup just the way they have it. And if that is the case, if we take a time machine and we go back or we go further into the future of 2019, don't be surprised and don't be shocked if these two teams face each other either in the first round or in the second round. Now, Oklahoma City Thunder is actually going to make the playoffs. I mean, despite the fact that they've won some basketball games and they have lost some basketball games, and they're one man short. Well, in this case, they have Paul George with Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony left. So the team's playing a little better. It's funny how when they get rid of a basketball player, then the production of the team goes up. It's actually funny how that happens. But they're going to make the playoffs despite the fact that they've lost some basketball games. They've lost some players here or there. There's been some injuries. So the Thunder will still make the playoffs as predicted. Now, as for the Houston Rockets, this is a team that we got to put 7 question marks. The coach, the players, and what is wrong with this team? I mean, how is it that you can beat the Lakers, but then when you go up against other teams, you just disappear in the third quarter, disappear in the fourth quarter, nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be heard from? And it's like, I scratch my head, like, if we go back into a time machine, this team had a chance to do something it hadn't done before. All they had to do was knock off the Golden State Warriors in 7 games, and they couldn't do it because their best basketball player, Chris Paul, was injured. James Harden was forced to play against a team that had way too much firepower, and even though James Harden put up some big numbers, you can't stop no Kevin Durant. You can't stop no Stephen Curry, no Klay Thompson, no Draymond Green. You can't stop all these players all at once. And I do believe we're going to see James Harden play like he normally does. He's probably going to drop maybe 25 points, maybe 30. You know how James Harden is. 1 minute, this guy can drop 10 points. And then on his best night, he can drop 50. So your guess is as good as mine with James Harden. Chris Paul, I think Chris Paul will be able to play. But considering the fact that he's injury prone, I don't see Chris Paul playing at a high level in this game, and I'll tell you why. I believe that Chris Paul is probably going to try to save some energy because it's Christmas Day, and that he knows that, you know, if I go all out trying to win this game, he might get hurt. Now, Chris Paul might still drop 25, 30 points because you got to play the basketball game on Christmas. So I expect Chris Paul to do that, you know, get 5 steals. You know, I expect him to put up some strong numbers. Now, the offense is good, but for some reason, defensive-wise, the Houston Rockets just disappear. And the Thunder can play defense and offense very well. So, who wins this Christmas game and why? If I'm a betting man, I'm probably going to say maybe by 2 or maybe by 4 points, maybe by 6. I give it to the Thunder. Only because Russell Westbrook might get a double-double or a triple-double, and it may be based off of that. Hell, don't be surprised if the basketball game goes into overtime. I have a feeling one of these basketball games for Christmas Day, by accident, might go into overtime. And when they do that, that's like a nice little insight. That's like a nice little future prediction of the NBA playoffs. I have a belief that the teams that you see on Christmas Day or teams are going to face each other in the NBA playoffs in the West and in the East. And don't be surprised that if these two teams face each other in the first round or in the second round, that actually happens. Now, if the Houston Rockets don't make it to the playoffs, then you just might see Oklahoma City Thunder go against either the Jazz, Portland Trail Blazers. It'll all be done out because when we get to 2019, I will make these videos and I will bring up these two teams and the possibility of these teams facing each other. Or what if Houston don't make it, but OKC does? And I'll talk about the ramifications on what will actually happen if these teams don't meet in the playoffs as being predicted for Christmas. As you do know, when they have Christmas games, these are games that will let you know, will these two teams battle each other in the playoffs? Will we see these teams somewhere in the playoffs? That's what usually these games are. It's a Christmas game, but at the same time, it's a preview to, yeah, they might face each other in the playoffs. So I expect this game to be a high-scoring game. You know, somewhere between 100 to maybe 115 points, maybe 120 points, that's it. Maybe an overtime game. Who knows? So until then, peace.